Oh hey, it's Wes and Maggie, and today it's time to talk about a new venture for Smallrig. Smallrig is already well known for creating good bang for your buck photography accessories, and maybe some small electronic devices here and there. But now they're branching out into something bigger, and yet small. It is the new RC120B, and there's also an RC120D. So the B means this is a bi-colored light, and the D would mean that it's a daylight balanced light. So let's get into it. So the RC120B, as well as the D, are rated as 120 watt LED COB lights. However, in testing, the bi-colored version actually comes in at anywhere between 89 watts to 145 watts. It's actually a decent amount of output. Now, when I first saw this light announced, I had a clever thought. I thought, Wes, you're a clever boy, aren't you? You saw something, didn't you? And what I saw was this. The Godox Litemons LA150. It looks a lot like the RC120, and I thought, oh, Smallrig is just being sneaky, and they rebadged a Godox Light. They did not. If you look inside these, the internal components are entirely different. Any similarities are merely cosmetic at best. Even down to the XLR, or rather the DC power jack on the back, looks similar, but it's an entirely different part number. There is almost nothing the same in here. The venting design is different. Everything is different. They're just similar. That's all. Kind of weird. Unexpected. So stick around and subscribe. I'll be reviewing the Litemons 150 on its own a little bit later on, possibly my next video. But focusing on this Smallrig, this not so clever guy, we're going to look in deep, starting with, as always, the build quality. So the build of this light is honestly nothing to write home about. But there is a very obvious reason for that. This is a value-priced light. So this is made of plastic. When I first saw the ads for it, I thought it was metal because it's a very metallic looking plastic, but it's actually quite squishy. And honestly, even though it's kind of a squishy plastic, I feel like this plastic might be less likely to break than a more rigid plastic because it feels like a very quality plastic with a lot of elasticity built into it. Although I haven't thrown this down a flight of stairs yet, so I can't say that for sure. The mount on the front, of course, is metal still though. The odd thing about the mount is it screws in backwards. I'm gonna pick up the Litemons. Yeah, with most Bowens mounts, you tighty-righty, lefty-loosey. For some reason, with the Smallrig, it's lefty-tighty, righty-loosey. So that's a bit weird. Not by any means a deal breaker, but it can get confusing when you're setting up real fast and you're just trying to get a light box on there, and it's kind of awkward. And as you can see here, we've got a DC power jack, nice and solid. Here's a metal connector there, plasticky buttons, pretty normal sized LCD display. There's no forward venting, which I honestly, in my head, and a lot of people say this, having forward venting can cause overheating inside a softbox, but I did a test. I ran both of these for about 45 minutes each and checked to see which one was hottest at the Bowens mount and hottest in the softbox, and lo and behold, the Litemons was actually cooler. This is a light that has a lot of venting around here, and thus it pumped a fair amount of heat into the softbox. But overall, this one runs at a higher fan speed and so still managed to manage the heat better. Either way though, neither got that hot. I've seen much, much hotter lights in the past, so no big deal either way. The power brick, let me fish this up here, is a nice reasonable size. We're looking at a 149.9 watt brick. I say it's reasonable size because the one for the Litemons is a behemoth. And because we have this DC power setup, we can run on battery. Now this is an optional battery plate for 49 bucks. It's a pretty nice build and honestly makes me think of other Smallrig stuff. Very versatile. There are lots of mounting points you can pop out on this. Nice metal bracket on the back, but it doesn't come with it, so it's not really a part of our rating right now. And it's got a nice handle on the back. Not all lights have that, and it's a nice big size that you can really get your hand in. Additionally, the handle right here on the Litemons, it's tight. If you have big hands at all, it would be annoying to slip your fingers through this. A generally well-considered design, small and compact, but really plasticky. It's a low-cost option. I'm going to give that a 6 out of 10 for build quality. Feature set. This is a pretty well-featured device because, well, the top thing is it is a bi-colored LED, which gives it head and shoulders above our standard daylight balanced devices. We have Bluetooth connectivity, which the setup wasn't that great. It turns out you have to hold down the reset button for a few seconds in order to initiate the Bluetooth pairing, which is not the most obvious procedure, I have to say. And a built-in Bones mount, which honestly is the most essential thing for a light like this. I hate it when they come with a proprietary mount. You've got external battery power if you want. You have effect sets, which aren't so bad because this is a bi-colored light, so it can push around in different directions. Because who's going to light a campfire with a daylight balance thing? Now, yeah, you can put a gel on top of it, but it's nice when you don't have to. You can affect your white balance from 2700 all the way up to 6500. If we take a look at the power output curve, I really like the one on this because it's nice and smooth, but it gives you a nice low start. I don't really like it when a light unit starts out really bright. It greatly reduces the versatility, especially if you're using it unmodified and just firing it at something. A lot of the time you don't need a lot of light to get that done, but then you like to be able to ramp up nice and evenly if you're putting it in a softbox and have to get your light levels just right. Now, one big difference between the two is the Smallrig comes with this giant, fantastic carry case. You've got a shoulder strap. It's a very handsome case. Look at this thing. Look at that. Got a travel name tag thing on the back. Now the foam inside is a little bit cheapy. It's kind of like really nice shipping packing foam. But overall, it's a nice inclusion. When, by comparison, Litemons comes in a cardboard box that, you know, you're not going to use that again. So overall, pretty well-rounded feature set. I'm going to give that a 9 out of 10. It's pretty much got what you want. Light quality, very important. One of the biggest factors for me in light quality is whether or not it's easy to modify. Once again, we come back to that Bones mount. You can make this light look however you want it to.
And it was just a lot of fun, and it brings me back to my childhood every time I remember it. And it saddens me so much of the situation going on there because of my roots there. And I just want to help any way I can for the Ukrainian people that are back home with the war going on. The community of Moncton, the whole community has, the whole city has come forward to help the Ukrainian cause and raise money for the people.
And then number 2, the TLCI and the CRI, which are rated at TLCI 96, CRI 95. It's not the best. It's good, but not the best. So I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10 for light quality. Usability. One giant leap for usability for these two lights is that they are very small and compact compared to the SL150 that I'm currently using that has just marginally more power than this. It's half the size. So if you're packing for an event or carrying your stuff, you can fit 2 of these in the same place that you can a traditional LED light. It's nice that these things are getting smaller. Now, as I mentioned, the Bluetooth pairing procedure wasn't that great, but the app itself is very easy to use, very simple. However, in the onboarding process for the app, you do have to register with an email address, and I hate that. Underscore. Apps that require my phone number or my email address, I just stop it. Moving right along though, you've got a bright, easily visible screen. It's not quite as visible off-axis as the Godox one, which is a much simpler display and is white on black, but it's a little easier to see in more lighting scenarios. locking arm here is not the best. The handle really gets up into the way, like you can't get your fingers in here, and it's not one that you can just pull out and reposition. You can't do that. And once you put a softbox on it, it does not lock down very well. This area is not very large. So you really gotta crank on that, and even then, it still slides. It's not the best. So if you need to put a huge softbox on something, I would not recommend this, unless you have like a secondary setup that keeps the arm from having to be used. And lastly, noise levels. The fan doesn't come on initially, and when you are using it, it is quite quiet. Now the one annoying thing is that it kicks in randomly, so it only comes on when it needs to, but it doesn't ramp up slowly, it just comes on and turns off. Now when it does come on, it's only about 38 decibels. And when it's running at bass, it's about 35 decibels. So it is very quiet. Not the most quiet, but significantly quieter than the Godox Litemons. Again, wait for that video. Additionally, you have an umbrella holder with a screw mount. Lots of people prefer that to the spring mount that is in a lot of Godox products. So overall, the usability, the only knock against this really is that kind of weak arm. So I'm gonna give that a 9 out of 10. Value, and this is where things are important because, as I said, this is a competitively priced light and it takes a few compromises to get to that price point. So how does it do? Well, we've got to compare this against other bi-colored LED jobs. So our price right here is $260, and for the daylight balanced one, it's $220. Compare that to the Litemons, which comes in a bi-colored light for $260, exactly the same price. I am still a little bit suspicious about the relationship between these two units. But again, they are completely different. And you'll see in the Litemons video that there are some massive differences that I didn't even discuss yet. You have the Godox LA150 Bi-color, so this light, but in more than one color. That's gonna set you back $410. That is a huge price disparity there. You got the Amran 200X Bi-color, $350. Tiny bit more power, a lot more money. And the GVM RGB doesn't have a bi-colored version, 150S, $470. In Aperture, their gold standard device is the 120D, or the 120 Mark II D. It's $545, but it doesn't even come in bicolor. If you want bicolor from Aperture in this form factor, you gotta go upstream further for even more money. So, as it stands, this is about as cheap as you can get, but it's tied for first place. I got a balance between this and the Godox. The Godox has a little bit more power, so that's more bang for your buck, but not a big difference, and there are ups and downs to both of these, so I gotta give this a 9 out of 10 for value. Good job. So once we do the math, that gives us a total of 41 out of 50, a solid score, especially for a new entrant into the marketplace. So let me know what you think about this Smallrig light down in the comments below. If you want to pick one of these up, I've got links down in the description. It's not like these are some fly-by-night company. Smallrig's been around for a long time, working with photographers and videographers, so they're a company you can trust and can get behind. So I'm real excited to see what else they come out with in this space, but nothing exists in a vacuum, and they do have some competition. So until next time, subscribe and like. I don't know, I hate saying that. Let's go take some photos.